Hello, I'm Lalnundika, Darlong, a third-year student at SRCC. We were a four-member team, all from BCom honors. This is Aayam Mathur, that is Aryan Agarwal, and our fourth member was Soham Khare. He is not present here with us today. Now, in terms of my experience with case competitions, so my main forte was in corporate case competitions, whether it was from associations with other institutions or direct organized ones. Now, I do quite enjoy them, especially the free corporate trips that they do sponsor, and getting a lot of insights from mentors across industries, across experiences is always a nice addition to your forte of experiences.
Regarding my case competition experience, I've always taken a keen interest in consulting since the beginning of college, and I thought this was the closest thing that comes to that. So I participated in a lot of competitions, both inter-college as well as corporate level case competitions. A lot of the corporate case competitions we did participate together. So I would say, yeah, I have diverse experience across competitions.
Right. If I talk about my experience, I started with college level case competitions, moved on to corporate competitions as more and more opportunities were shared by the cell. I got the opportunity to take part in all kinds of domains, whether it was strategy, finance, or marketing. I think it would be fair to say that throughout my 3 years at SRCC, case competitions have played a vital role in my growth and development.
So the BrAINWARS competition is quite an interesting one. I mean, it's conducted by Bain & Company under their Bain Capability Network. Now, considering the overall experience that we had, it's quite limited to a number of colleges. It's not open to all colleges. So due to that, it limits the pool, but at the same time, we had to, go up against the top colleges because it started in SSCBS.
Right, talking about the structure of the competition, unlike most of the corporate case competitions, BrAINWARS did not really have any sort of quiz or AI round. We directly started with case submissions. Before that, we had a preliminary round that involved CV submission, and as far as I know, there were certain teams which were eliminated after that round. So if you are participating, do keep that in mind. This was followed by the preliminary round. There were around 3 to 4 case problems. Every team was given a different case problem, and we had to prepare a 10 to 12 slider. I remember we were given a supply chain case. Once we were shortlisted, we were given a 3-slider case problem, and our case. That was this. In that particular round, the same problem was given to all the shortlisted teams, and the problem was based on cloud computing. Once shortlisted, we were required to elaborate on that 3-slider, make it a 10 to 12 slider. Fortunately, we were shortlisted for the finals. In the finals, we were given the chance to update our deck if we wanted to make any additions or any changes. And that before the final presentations, we also had a mentorship round. So every finalist team was allocated a mentor by the Bain Capability Network. We got an opportunity to interact with our mentor for an hour almost. We got to know a lot about them. We got to know about their domain, and they gave their own inputs on the case problem, which was related to cloud computing. So I think that was very, very value additive. That helped us with our presentation. And yes, that was the structure of the competition.
So for this competition, we went ahead with a team of 4. That's the 3 of us, and Soham Khare, who's arguably one of the most important members here. We've been participating in competitions in our first year. Lalnundika and I have been teaming up together in competitions, and Soham and Aryan had also been teaming up together. For this one, we just decided to go ahead with each other. Regarding the discussion on synergy and skill set, I would say synergy takes the cake any day. It's much easier to work with people with whom you have a bond. Collaboration comes much more naturally that way. It's quite difficult to just bring together skill sets and expect them to be able to collaborate. But really, when you have people you'd be happy sitting on meets for hours with, that's when you can learn and grow together and identify your strengths together.
Alright, so the mentorship round is something we had right before the finals. Now, while they do say it is non-evaluative, that is often not the case with anything in a competition. Now, right before the round, we did prepare quite a bit in terms of whether it was identifying who the mentor was in depth, because they do share the details beforehand. And in terms of that, we checked him up on LinkedIn. We checked what all domains he's worked in. So we identified synergies between our case, our team, and the manager. Now, after identifying those, when we entered the meeting, we presented all of the things we found about our case and tidbits of information that were related to his personal experience. Now, basis that, we were able to build a good bond, and he was able to share things more naturally. Because once we built that synergy, it was easy for him to tell us slight bits of information that were somewhat tweaks that he had identified over the years. So, main thing is to do your homework beforehand. Thank you.
So really there are three main things to be covered here. First one being content, the next one being presentation, and finally the delivery of that presentation. Regarding content, there are a couple of key points I would encourage everyone to keep in mind. The first and perhaps the most important thing would be to structure first. Now, I know a lot of my peers, and even I had fallen for this bad habit, where the moment you get a case, you're prompted to, or you feel the urge to just jump onto a PowerPoint or a Canva link and then just get to building the deck. But it's much more important to sit down with your thought first, figure out what the exact problem is, what is the ask of the problem, and really how you want to go about solving it. One of the most important reasons for this is also so that you can have a big picture focus in mind. Now, what do I mean when I say big picture focus? Really, at all times, you want to remember the fact that any bit of text, any visual, or any slide that you have in your deck, it exists to serve a purpose. There's a problem that the thing is trying to solve. There's some, let's say, sub-question that it's trying to address, and that's why it's there, and how it fits into that big picture. And an understanding of that is really incredibly important to presenting a coherent story in the deck, which is why, coming back to what I was saying, it's really important to structure first. The next thing regarding the specific points that we do make, which is always it's best to take a quantitative and data-backed approach. Now, what do I mean by this? If you're claiming a certain thing, let's say X, then it's very important that we do give some kind of data backing to it. Either it could come in form of a credible research report, or let's say if the topic warrants it, some kind of estimation from your own end. The reason for that is that numbers add a lot more meaning to things, they add scale, and they allow us to comprehend things better. And especially whenever you add a credible source behind it, it becomes all the more believable and adds a sense of practicality to your solution. The final thing I want to mention in terms of content is that it's very important to build a coherent story with your deck. What do I mean by that? The easiest way to check for this really is whenever you're going through the slide titles that you've created, when you read through just the slide titles, you should be able to come up with a very coherent story and make sense of things in a way that helps you understand how exactly the problem has been solved with the contents of the deck. If that's not really being done, then you haven't presented an effective story.
Coming to the presentation aspect of things, which is arguably the most important in some ways, because you need to be able to make it look visually appealing before they get to what you've put. Now, in terms of that, we focused on quite a few things. The main thing that we focused on was making it feel familiar for the judges. Now, we did that in a few ways, which was, for example, firstly, leveraging the color red quite a lot. And the other thing was using charts that they use often in their decks and their presentations and their research reports, such as the MECO chart, also known as a tree map, or a waterfall chart. Aside from this, you are given a template that you can use, but that's mainly just for the header and the footer. But you do get the thank you page and the cover page that you have to use regardless of what you are trying to put in the content. Now, aside from this, we would highly recommend that your titles on each slide are in the form of sentences that conclude the entire slide in one go, rather than just putting something like findings or introduction. Make it a short sentence to explain what you've put in a summary format.
Adding on to Nandika's last point, regarding the titles, each title should really be conveying the so what of that slide, as in why does that slide exist to serve its purpose in the entire deck, right? And another thing that's worth mentioning here in terms of the presentation is to leverage the appendices. While there is a limit on the number of slides, there's actually no limit on the number of appendices, and you can probably use that to your advantage to convey a lot of back-end work that might have been put into place so that your efforts can be recognized much more easily. The final bucket we had in mind was the delivery of this entire presentation. Now, in our case, the delivery was only required in one round, which was the final round, where we had to present online to the judges. But still, it's worth mentioning this, and there are a couple of points to be noted here. First of all, please have a script in mind. It goes without saying, it's very difficult to do these things spontaneously, especially under time pressure and general stress. So have a script ready beforehand. Regarding what you want to be saying, there's a certain sequence to things. Of course, you want to cover what you've done in the deck and how you've gotten to the things, but really there's a priority list that comes to play here. The first thing you always want to be talking about is the impact, as in what is the outcome of whatever work you've done on a particular slide or in a particular subsection. Then you want to be giving the supporting points. And let's say after that, if there was any, let's say, back-end work required or any estimation work required, research work required that you think was worth or significant enough to mention, then you mention that. So really to summarize, have a script, focus on the impact first, then give your supporting points, and then mention the process, if anything.
Right. So most of the corporate case competitions tend to have at least one offline round. Mostly it's the final presentation round. But as you know, BrAINWARS, in BrAINWARS, all the rounds are held online. I think this is something which went against us. So reiterating the fact that we did not win the competition, but we were national finalists. If you were to ask me what went wrong, I think it was our final presentation. Not the quality of our deck, but the way we presented. I think we put in the entire effort from our side, whether it was scripting or whether it was trying to simplify our technical solution. However, if I think about the Q&A round, the kind of questions which the judges asked from us were very, very generalized. Going into the round, we were expecting that most of the questions would focus on the core technical solution which we were suggesting, and we had accordingly prepared for that. If that would have been the case, the Q&A round would have been much better because the kind of answers we would give would be of a higher quality. So, because this is an online competition, you have to make sure that while you are taking care of the basic points like you are using the right technology, that there should not be any sort of glitch at all. At the same time, try to make sure that you are grabbing the attention of the judge. And to do that, it's not only important to have good voice modulation and being good at speaking, but you have to make sure that you are able to present your solution in a much simple and interactive manner. If you don't do that, you won't really be able to have a good Q&A round, and not having a good Q&A round defeats the purpose of having that presentation in front of the judge.
So, regarding what sets us apart from the other teams, one of the most crucial points here is that we reached out to tons of people in the consulting industry and got a lot of feedback. We sat on meetings with consultants, especially at Bain. We gave them our presentations, had extensive Q&A sessions to comprehensively prepare for the actual Q&A. And really that added a lot of practical and corporate insight and perspective to our deck that I believe really shone through in all the submission rounds.
Right. Another important aspect which we focused a lot on is familiarity. Whenever we were working on the slides, whether it was getting content or whether it was the slide design, we always made sure that we referred to a number of multiple Bain reports. We wanted to understand the process followed at Bain. We wanted to understand how Bain would be solving such a problem. And finally, the third aspect which I would like to talk about was our general team bonding. I think when it comes to the four of us, we were always willing to put ourselves out there. We were willing to ask each other questions. Apart from getting external input, we were willing to get input from each other, focus on each other's specializations, and that made the whole process very, very enriching because we were able to learn a lot from it.
While we have covered all of the advice that we have, in terms of 3 key advice that we would like to give you, it would be first, focus on the team that you have. These are the people that you'd be spending hours with over 2 months. You don't want to get fed up with them. You want to build that synergy throughout, whether it's working together or whether it's sharing ideas and whatnot. Now, the second thing would be to focus on the structuring that you have, because this is not a research-based competition for the most part. A lot of it boils down to your own structuring, and a lot of it boils down to your ideation and leveraging what you have. And lastly, we would say focus on the familiarity aspect to the greatest extent. Make sure that Bain people would look at it and think that it's something they would have produced or something that they would see on the day-to-day, because that is something you want to emphasize and leverage to the best of your abilities.
Absolutely. Like, if you can do all those 3 things to your absolute best, then really hefty cash prizes for the winners and the runners-up, and even a PPI opportunity for one of our prominent recruiters awaits you. But I would say the real perks of participating in this competition would be the friendship you build along the way. You'd also get to interact with a lot of people from the corporate and especially from the consulting industry, and that would give you a lot of practical insights as well. And you'd also get to learn a lot about various domains from the various case themes that are covered.
Do keep in mind that certain institutions have a much more established legacy in this competition. They have tasted more success, but there's a first time for everything. As Aayam mentioned, the perks are great. Getting a PPI is a big deal. After all, it's one of the best opportunities out there in consulting, and we believe that makes the competition worth it.
Please feel free to reach out to any of us, and we wish you all the best.